Hi guys, today is kind of a special throwback video in a way, kind of harking back to the days of old when the TCG was in its, well, infancy I guess. When the cards first came out, you had variations, because you had a lot of older cards, before EXs, before the full art stuff, the Primal Groudons and Kyogres, before a lot of the artistic integrity you have today within the cards. You had kind of a simpler kind of card game. And I want to kind of show you guys some of my favourite retro Pokemon cards that I've had for a couple of years, on and off. Some I've had probably since childhood. Probably some of my favourite of the original card games, and probably a few honourable mentions as well. Because a lot of people talk about the meta of the TCG and kind of what it's up to now, but I'd kind of like to attribute that if you didn't have the game then without those cards, you probably wouldn't have the game as popular as it is today. So I guess at number 8 had to go to Poliwrath. From the base set 1. He has 90 hit points, has the moves Water Gun and Whirlpool. pretty intoxicating mixture back in the original format, where the basic Pokemon you'd be attacking would have maybe 40-50 hit points as a basic, and that was considered really good. I also like the artwork, the kind of splashing in the background. 3 retreat cost was quite high back then, weak to grass. Grass wasn't really used as much as it is now. I'm talking about the cards, not the not the drug. I'm sure grass was used as much as it ever was. Pretty high cost for Water Gun and Whirlpool, but back then it was a bit more slower paced. At times you'd take your time. You'd still set up your bench just like you do now, but it kind of has that in a way. 90 hit point. Stage 2 evolves from Poliwrath, a simple evolution line. Poliwrath, of course, in the video game is actually a water and fighting type, but obviously they didn't really have dual types in the original one, so they only had the one type, so it was categorized as water. Pretty handy to use. A lot of people use them in the deck known as Rain Dance, where you'd use either Poliwrath, Gyarados, Blastoise, or Lapras. You'd use any of those for. In combination with that, he was a pretty solid attacker. There's not really too much to say on Poliwrath. I mean, he's a great collector's card. The artwork is pretty solid in my opinion. 90 hit points for stage 2 was kind of to be expected at the time, considering that the highest hit point in the game at the time, one of the highest, was like 120, 130, around that. So he was only 30, 40 hit points below that. So he was right up there. Right, number 7 from base set 2 is Hitmonchan. Interesting. Well, I hope to be somewhat interesting. Hopefully it's not. Everyone's like, we knew that. It's originally named after Jackie Chan, just as Hitmonlee was named after Bruce Lee. That's how they came up with the names of these two. Because Hitmonchan is more physical based with the punches, and Hitmonlee was obviously after Bruce Lee was named because of the physical based attacking with his feet. With Jab and Special Punch, originally used in the deck Haymaker. A slight improvement from Poliwrath, I'd say. Weak to Psychic. You had your Mulligan Mewtwo. I'll get to that, don't worry. With the 2-star retreat cost and weak to Psychic. No resistance, so there, just like Poliwrath, no resistance. The Haymaker deck is kind of, you'd either splash that in with Hitmonlee or Aerodactyl, Scyther. You kind of frequent attackers, kind of jab away at your opponent's hit points. Their Pokemon, their opponent's Pokemon hit points. And you'd kind of, hopefully take them out. And for a basic, 70 hit points for a basic, only 20 below Poliwrath, which you had to evolve, into a Poliwag, from Poliwag to Poliwag, and then Poliwag to Poliwrath. It's base set 2. I'm trying to get the base set 1, but, that might be another time. I like the green in the background, that kind of hazy looking green. Like he's about to punch someone in the face. That's what Hitmonchan did. As I said, he's quite the physical attacker, with a Jab and Special Punch. Again, there's only so much you can say on a basic card. You're trying to discuss the basics. At the time, Haymaker was a very successful build. It won a lot of locals and stuff like that, so it did really well. Your eyes do not deceive you. I'm putting in at number 6, Ancient Mew. It was a card that was given away to, I believe, in certain pre-releases to those that saw the Pokemon the First movie, available to buy online. It was interesting because the card wasn't like others. As you can see, by some extent, the card is a lot different. And that kind of threw me off, but I kind of liked it that it had like symbols and numbers on it instead. There was a translation if you went to your locals, you got given a free playmat and an explanation as to what Mew actually did. It's pretty good. I believe its first and only attack, from what I can see, is for 2 psychic energy, but that's all I could translate. I'm sure, maybe, if I'm lucky, someone in the comments will probably put it, what it does, or I'll research it and hopefully put it in the description below. But I like the simplistically, sorry, tripping over my own words here. This is raw, by the way, I'm not editing any of this out, this is pretty much just me talking. I'm always going to do that, I'd rather it come straight from me than, you get some of those people that refine what they say. I'm not very good at that, I just say it. So as a kind of, you've got the classic border around it, it was something different for the game. I can't remember if it was allowed to be used in the TCG, but as a collector's card, it was pretty prominent, I'd say, amongst collectors. And that kind of carved, ancient temple-looking transcript drawing. You have like the different colours, it's like if you're on LSD or something and you looked at that, you'd be like freaked out for a while. So I think it definitely deserves a spot at number 6. Number 5, I've decided on Gyarados. This is the base set 2 edition, pretty much the same for the base set 1. 100 hit points, evolved from Magikarp. I suppose, if anything, it's the animated or visual personification of raising something that, has potential. From, massive trees, little acorns grow, or something like that. It's a phrase of some sort, I'm sure, or I might remember it later. But, raising Magikarp and it becomes a Gyarados. The move Dragon Rage for 50 damage, for 3 water energy, and Bubble Beam. For 4 water energy, flip a coin if heads, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. Paralyzing Pokemon since 1999. Weak to grass, resistant to fighting, which is handy because, again, if you were going up against Haymaker, say you were using Rain Dance against Haymaker, Gyarados would be a good stand-up for that. 3 retreat cost, quite high, so, and again, you didn't really have the abilities that you have now to retreat stuff as easily, so you had to drop 3 energy if you wanted to retreat. The artwork as well, as mentioned with some of the other cards, I just like that spiral kind of water gun bubble effect in the background, and I suppose it was considered an honorary dragon when Lance used it, but it's more of a serpent kind of creature, like a fish serpent. Stage 1, 100 hit points, deserved a spot on this list, I felt, as one of my favourite cards. Just in general, whenever I play the Pokemon, the games as well, I'd always get like a Gyarados once in a while, whenever the opportunity came up, whether I used it on my team or not. It'd be like, I'll catch a Magikarp, raise it to level 20, it learns Bite and evolves into Gyarados. And number 4 is the first holographic card that I got from the base set, and that's Alakazam. One of the first Pokemon that had Pokemon powers as well, the Poke Power as such, damage swap. You could move damage counters around on your Pokemon once per turn, unless Alakazam was affected by a status condition. And Confuse Ray for 3 Psychic Energy did 30, flip a coin if heads, the defending Pokemon is now confused. Again, a high retreat cost and weak to Psychic, just like the Hitmonchan, except it has 1 extra retreat cost. I enjoy the artwork. Alakazam was always one of those solid attackers in the game, it had one of the highest special attacks, especially the original Pokemon games. I'm going back to Red, Blue and Yellow. Alakazam had one of the highest, or if you could get an Alakazam, if you were lucky enough to have someone to trade with a link cable, via that method, then Alakazam was one of the highest attackers in the game, and then obviously, next gen, when it got to Gold and Silver, the attack stat, it took a cut in power, but still, one of the highest special attackers of its day, and when I play Soul Silver, I often, trade it over, back to Soul Silver, between like Diamond, Pearl and Platinum. I'll trade it over and then trade it back so I get an Alakazam when I play through. Because I still play the older DS games, I play all the Pokemon games really. Except for Black and White too. I didn't really care for Generation 5, I didn't really like it, that was just me. For a high retreat cost, I enjoyed the artwork. I should point out, I probably forgot to mention this at the start of the video, I'm only reviewing 8 cards. One of the reasons is because I only have 8 retro cards that, at the moment, that you know, that are, I thought were on that list. There are a few that aren't on here, such as, you know, just a spoiler at this point. Actually, no, I'm not going to mention it. I'll let you, when you see the end of the list, you'll know what made it onto the list and what didn't. And I apologise if there's any honourable mentions. I might put in the description below what I thought should have gone on the list if I had them, but didn't. I do apologise for that. Right, number 3 is Venusaur, one of the original innovators of the game. The original Kanto starter. Number 1 on the Pokedex was Bulbasaur. It was number 3 on the original Pokedex, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and then Venusaur. 100 hit points, stage 2 with the Pokemon Power Energy Trans, which was short for Energy Transfer. And as long as you like, during your turn before you attacked, you could take a Leaf Energy, attach to one of your Pokemon, and attach it to a different one. The power can't be used if Venusaur is asleep, confused, or paralyzed. Often used in, you know, a combination with fire types that you could move energies around. Various things like that, and Solar Beam did 60 for 4 Leaf Energy, which was quite a lot. 100 hit points, solid attacker. Trying to cover that fire weakness wasn't really too much of an option. You kind of would bench Venusaur and then hopefully switch in. Its retreat cost was only 2, it had no resistance, so it was pretty good. You know, especially for one of the starters. Venusaur has always been one of my favourites. It's the kind of bulky, photosynthesizing beast that it is. This Herculean monstrosity that just would devour most water types that you put in front of it. And to me that was always awesome. I always enjoyed that. Alright guys, I think you know by now where this is heading. To some logical extent. Number 2 is Blastoise. Very close between that and its tiebreaker, although considered superior to the number 1 spot. Based on, I suppose, as I'll mention when I get to it, there's a reason why I picked this in second place. 100 hit points, same as Venusaur, with the Pokemon Power Rain Dance. This is why it was useful in conjunction with Lapras, Gyarados. Such stuff like Lapras and Gyarados, for example. You know, I was trying to think of the third Pokemon, I'll remember in a second. It's like, I'm pretty sure you would use that in combination with Blastoise. With Rain Dance, you'd move water energy around, similar to Venusaur's energy transfer, really. You could attach a water energy to one of your water Pokemon. And Hydro Pump did 40 damage for 3 water and does 40 plus 10 more for each water energy attached to Blastoise. So you would use Rain Dance and Energy Switch to kind of move the energies around to Blastoise and then hit them with Hydro Pump. That was kind of the plan. But it's weak to Electric and it has 3 retreat cost. The artwork is banging, have to say. The old school stuff had really consistent artwork, like the backgrounds were very trippy. You could tell that they were edited in, like with some of the newer cards that you can tell it's like a full artwork, but with these, a lot of them, they had the background first and then it's almost like they've put the image over the top of it, like most of the edits that you'll probably see in my videos are done exactly the same way. This big turtle Pokemon, staple water type Pokemon, is from base set 2. The addition doesn't really bother me as such. You know, some people are like, base set 1 was better. I'm like, well, they were near enough the same. Apart from the 2 with the Pokeball in front of it, they're pretty much the same. All it was a second batch. And you'd have that with no resistance, and, you know, you take out a lot of things against a water deck. Obviously, if you were going up against a Zapdos or something, a card that probably should have gone on this list, or Raichu, for example, probably should have gone on that list. But it was heavy attacker, you know, you bring it with strong artillery, you load up your bench with water type Pokemon, you know, you prepare the energies, you Hydro Pump away, and you have at your opponent. You really want to see it. I'm just kidding. Well, here it is. The number 1 spot, of course. Charizard. Who else? Stage 2 Pokemon evolved from Charmeleon, 120 hit points. One of the reasons, or I should say the prime reasons to why this is on my list, is because it's something I always wanted as a child. There's always that, I don't know about you guys, but there's always something on your list as you get older. When you're a kid, you don't appreciate it. As you get older, you know, you get into your teens or even older beyond that, you kind of get to the thing where after the kind of the social acceptance of, you know, you want this and stuff, sometimes you go, I really wish I had that from my childhood. And for me it was always Charizard. You know, I always considered it, you know, something that I always wanted. Some say it's overhyped, some say it's overrated. I say it's, you know, I can see why people think that. I think Charizard has been overused to some extent, but to me he will always be, you know, the antithesis. It's a new word for me. The antithesis of what a Pokemon should be. You know, something powerful, something something a little different. It's, you know, similar to Gyarados, it comes from that semi-Dragonite type, except now obviously it has a Mega Evolution, which is technically part Dragon. Temporarily it has Fire Spin, which does 100, should get into its credentials. Discard 2 energy attached to this Charizard in order to use this attack. That's where the energy transfer comes in with Venusaur, where you had the deck known as Forest Fire, where you would combine Charizard and Venusaur together. You know, weak to water, resistant to fighting, 3 energy, you know, to retreat. Especially the artwork is kind of like in some sort of like spiky volcano. There's some like sort of fire blast in the background. It's pretty cool. You've got the outline around Charizard. It's been added onto the top. His energy burn was pretty cool, because as often as you like during your turn before you attack, you may turn all energy cards to fire. This is where you use energy transfer. You load up the leaf energy from Venusaur and you put them on the Charizard, so you can keep using Fire Spin. Not as commonly used as Rain Dance. And I give you, you know, it's always going to be a subjective approach in that matter, but I'll try not to bore you with that. I feel I've spoken long enough. One of the reasons as Charizard, it was the envy of most school playgrounds. It was something that most people that were into the TCG at the time wanted, but they couldn't get either for, you know, the luck, because it wasn't in every pack. You know, now EXs are more common to get in packs than they were. Well, not EXs, obviously the equivalent of that would have been like something like a Charizard or a Blastoise. To get those in a base set, to pull those, you know, it was pretty much luck based, because obviously, you know, you only got maybe, not like now where, you know, most people, including myself, buy like multiple packs or booster boxes, stuff like that. They'll buy those multiple packs and booster boxes so that they have those options to do so. But yeah, Charizard was, you know, the thing I wanted most in my childhood. You know, everyone has that list, you know, whether it's a car they always wanted, you know, a toy car, or even an adult car as they get older, they always wanted that Lamborghini or that mansion. You know, for me it was always the Charizard, the base set Charizard. And I've said it before and I'll say it again to people, if I had to get rid of all my cards and keep just one, this would be it. Alright guys, that was my list for the top 8, in my opinion, top 8 retro cards of the original format when it came out, of base set and base set 2. There was also Jungle and Forest and Fossil set, like Gym Leader and stuff like that. I could have gone into those, but the video would be even longer, plus I didn't have them at my disposal when recording this video. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me to the end if you made it that far. If not, I can't blame you. I did ramble on for quite a while. So yeah, if you'd like to leave in the comments what you thought the top 8 should be, or, you know, to be fair, most of them should be on that list, but the way a list works is it's always going to be an opinion based. But I think I'll leave it at that. You know, I'll end you with this scene, if you will. I just want to wave my hand over it to prove it's a live footage of Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. To me, the antithesis of the game and the original starters, and, you know, to me they made Pokemon. Everyone thinks of Pikachu, they don't think of the starters. All Pokemon really, they all have their own trait. You know, I want to know what your opinions are. Because I actually care. I like to know what people think. Vanity, I guess, to some extent, but, you know, and that's it. Thanks for watching, and guess I'm going now. Bye!